that's it. Should we get to the game review?
Let's do it.
All right, ladies and gentlemen, we are going to be talking about the Castles of Mad King Ludwig. We brought it up several times before. It is a 2014 release by Ted Alspach. Ted Alspach is a very interesting designer. He designed Suburbia, which is a big hit for him. Castles of Mad King Ludwig, another big hit for him. He's done many Age of Steam boards in the past. He is one of these designers that we probably may overlook a little bit because his designs are very simple. They're very elemental. They're kind of Knizia-like in the sense that he takes just a couple mechanisms, a couple design features, puts them together, and they work. And then he doesn't start adding on a whole bunch of superfluous things. Keeps it really, really simple. The artists for Castles of Mad King Ludwig are Keith Curtis, Agnesia Dabrowska, and Olin Tim. Agnesia, if I said that wrong, I'm sorry. And the publisher is Ted Alspach's publishing company, which is Bezier Games. Why don't you tell us a little bit about Castles of Mad King Ludwig?
Yeah, well, it's one of those games where you get to create something. Right, like you get pieces. In this case, you get basically these rooms, and it's actually based on this actual kind of person who
Very silly person.
Yeah, very silly, who actually created these really wild structures, and that's what you get to do in the game is you get to construct this castle from pieces, and there's base or like dungeon below pieces where you have to build stairs to go down, and then there's basically these different types of rooms that you have, and each one have different bonuses. But every time your castle, because of the randomness of the way they come out, the pieces or the rooms, your castle is going to be different. And again, it's like you have basically a finished piece of work, art at the end of every game. So even if you do horribly in the game, you still have this kind of sense of satisfaction and completion because at least you made this kind of like cool castle.
Absolutely. I mean, our family, we spend more time talking about which castle we'd want to live in than we almost pay very little attention to the score. It's like, okay, yeah, you won. But definitely, I would not want to live in your castle. All right.
Mm-hmm. Yep.
Look, you've got the dungeon next to the Queen's Chamber. Come on.
Yeah.
It's ridiculous. It makes no sense. I would never put that there.
Yep.
Whereas I've got the lounge right next to the cheese room. I mean, I'm set.
Right, exactly. Yeah, there's not a whole lot of fun going on in your castle. You don't have enough activity rooms.
Exactly. Yeah. So it's a bidding game.
Yep.
I'm already in. As Trey mentioned last week, I love me a good bidding game. But it's interesting in that the way the bidding works is one player is the auctioneer each round, and it rotates. And the auctioneer is going to have a number of rooms to put out, 5 to 7, I believe, depending on the player count. Right. And the rooms are different shapes, and the rooms are different sizes. They go from a tiny little square that is 100 square feet to huge 800 square feet, kind of sort of long octagonal structures, and each of them are different room types. There are sleeping rooms, there are activity rooms, there are hallways, there are basement rooms, and so on and so forth. And each room type has several different features about it. First of all, they tend to be specific in one or more ways. So outside rooms tend to have a open side that has to be left open. You can't put anything next to that side of the room, right? But then they also have things that happens. What happens when you complete a room? And how do you complete a room, Elder?
Basically, there's entrances for each room. So you have to have either, a stair, a hallway, or another room to complete them.
Yes.
And then it's complete. And when you complete any of the type of room depending on the type of room it is, it gives you a different bonus. Like, for instance, the outdoor room you mentioned gives you money, which can be very tight in the game.
Oh yeah, super tight. The eating rooms, the food rooms, those give you an extra action, which is really rare and really hard to get. The leisure rooms allow you to score the room again, and rooms have scores. So there are points that you get for each room. Some rooms just have you get 2 points for building this room, or you get 5 points for building this room. Other rooms will say you get 4 points for building this room, plus you get another 2 points for every food room that is adjacent to this room. And a lot of those are really kind of cleverly constructed, right? You can look at the bonuses given out to the room, and you can sort of figure out, oh, I get it. That's why this room is next to it. So, for instance, the activity rooms tend to be loud, right? They tend to be disruptive, right? You have there's a bowling room, there's a conservatory, there's a choir room, there's all those sorts of things. So they give a lot of points, but then they give minus points for each of several different room types that are next to it. So if you have a sleeping room that's next to your choir, that's probably not a good thing to have. So but guess what? You get docked points for that. Which is really interesting. It's a really interesting design, which creates, so you have 8 different room types, plus stairs, plus hallways, which you can buy at any point. And it creates a great spatial puzzle because you're trying to make a blueprint right in front of you, a thing, and not everything fits all the time, especially when the bonuses are paid out when you connect every entrance to something of a room. That means that what you're trying to do constantly in the game is figure out a way to finish as many rooms as you can. And in order to do that, you have to load up your building with more and more and more rooms that have a harder and harder and harder time fitting a lot of times, which is really interesting.
Right. But there is an exception, right? Like, so that brings the other element of the game where there's random objectives or goals that give you victory points at the end, right? And one of those is having uncompleted rooms. So that might be a reason where, where and again, you're kind of doing the math in your head as you go, and kind of deciding like, hey, is it going to be more valuable in points for me to complete rooms if that goal's out there? You're looking around to see, oh well, Trey's got way more uncompleted rooms anyway, so I'm not going to get that. So maybe I'll get more points here. So it's it's very not multiplayer solitaire.
Correct. Yes.
Because you have the bidding thing, and you really have to pay attention, ideally, to what other people are doing in the game, and also like it's very important to try to figure out, based on the castle they're building, what they are going to want to have, right? Like like how to price things appropriately.
Totally. Because and I just got distracted. So what I was trying to say was that when you are the auctioneer, you have 6 rooms, right? One of them you're going to have to place at a cost of $15,000. One at $10,000, one at $8,000, $6,000, $4,000, and just $2,000. So you look at everybody's boards, you see the rooms that they're building, what they need to complete, what they're trying to do, and you want to price things the best way you can because all the money that is paid for this auction comes to you. And as Elder said, money is really, really tight in this game. So all the rest of the rounds, you're spending money to get these buildings. You better get a big haul when you're the auctioneer, right? In that sense, it's largely a closed economy, in that the money is just circulating around, with certain exceptions. And what Elder said about the random element, which is that at the beginning of the game, either 3 or 4 special victory conditions are pulled out. And this is basically the whims of King Ludwig. Like today, King Ludwig really loves outdoors rooms, and he likes the square footage of utility rooms, and he likes stairs. So whoever has the most stairs at the end of the game is going to get 8 extra points. Second place is going to get 4, and third place is going to get 2, or something along those lines, right? That's the way those things work. And looking at those, that really changes your strategy. And then there's also utility cards. Utility rooms, when you complete them, get you extra utility cards, but you start the game drafting a hand of 3, I believe. And these are sort of secret bonus victory conditions that you have toward the end of the game. Like, hey, guess what? Every square room is worth an extra 2 points to you. Every 500 square foot room is worth an extra 4 points to you, right? Or every yellow room is worth an extra 2 points to you, and so on and so forth. So over the course of the game, you can kind of start to guess what cards people have by watching the different decisions that they've made in terms of placement, which is interesting.
Yeah. Yep.
So let's just say, who is this game for, Elder?
I think this is almost like a good intro into Euro games, because it's it's like that perfect blend and of being, like there's a lot of decisions to make and a lot of things to think about. So it typically, if you have those elements, the game is heavier, but it doesn't feel heavy when you play it.
No.
Right? It's like you don't have to think that hard to play, or even, I think, to be like effective in the game, right? Like you can just kind of go, with your gut on things, right? And again, depending on who you play with, which is one of the, I guess you can consider, fun aspects of the game, right? Is like, the table talk that can happen in this game. It's like, oh, you're gonna price that room there. He's gonna get that. You know how many points that is for him? Like, there's that whole thing. Didn't you guys do an episode about crying in a game?
Yeah, the Sniveler. Yes,
the Sniveler. Yeah, I haven't had a chance to listen to it yet, but yeah, it's a great game for sniveling.
My daughter, when this was her favorite game when she was like 5 years old, 7 years old.
Right.
Which, by the way, you can play this with any age. It's really quite a great family game as well. Yep. And she would just talk your ear off about why, Daddy, you really should put that orange room down at the $2,000 level, because I don't think anybody else really wants it, but I could really use it. And then there'd be and she would go on and on, like just trying to like swindle me.
Yeah.
and you could see it coming a mile away because she's so young, and it's just absolutely adorable.
Yeah,
absolutely adorable. So yeah, family game, a gateway game definitely is both of those.
But still satisfying if you're a heavy gamer.
That's the thing. That's exactly what I wanted to say. It's like, this is not, if I'm thinking I want to play Antiquity or Age of Steam, I'm not really going to reach for this instead. But this is one of those games that I get a tremendous amount of pleasure playing this game against people that are super casual gamers, right? Because there's enough going on. First of all, it's a good strategy game. Like, I could play this with hardcore gamers. We'd play it in a very different way. We'd be playing really cutthroat, but it holds up. It'll play a heavy game crowd and be okay. It's not not the deepest, not the most amazing thing in the world, but very, very good.
Yeah.
We should say that there are other variants that have come out. It's spawned a little cottage empire. Palaces of Mad King Ludwig came out between two Castles of Mad King Ludwig, and Castles of Mad King Ludwig Secrets, which was the expansion set for Castles of Mad King Ludwig. That one adds secret passages where you can create secret passages that secretly connect two rooms, and then the connection bonuses for that connection is doubled. Swans, the historical Mad King Ludwig, was called the Swan King because he absolutely adored the birds, and he would always have moats with tons and tons of swans in them. And in this version, there'll be certain buildings, the new buildings that come out in the expansion, have little swan symbols on them. And swan symbols are interesting because you can turn swans into cash that you might need at a certain moment of the game. But if you don't, if you hang on to them, swans are worth victory points at the end of the game, which is interesting. And then the third thing is Moats, Moats is a tricky one, but it's also the most interesting one to me, which is what you do when you've played Mad King Ludwig more than a couple times is you realize quickly, I want some real estate. I want to build my castle out so I don't get trapped and I don't have a difficult time fitting buildings in where I need them to. So I try to create long hallways going to the left, long hallways going to the right, big long buildings going to the north, so that I've got plenty of room to spread out. Well, moats is this thing where you can build moats around your castle and really create a small contained area. That's much, much harder to build in. But you get 1, 2, 3 times as many points for every single building inside the moated area than you would if you don't have the moat. So there's a strategy to playing that. And I believe in that situation, the outdoor buildings have to go outside of the moat. So it creates a really interesting, different variant on the way you have to think about building your buildings in Castles of Mad King Ludwig. And I guess we should also mention the collector's edition has a couple other expansions in addition. It's all the expansions we talked about. It has brand new art. Now, I don't know about you, but I think the art for the original game, I mean, it's not blow your mind, but I think it's really good and really functional.
Yeah, I mean, it fits for the game that it is, you know.
Well, the new art is even better, though. I have to say, it's gorgeous.
Yep,
absolutely stunning.
It is an upgrade for sure.
In the collector's edition, all the rooms have moats to some have swans to some degree. So the swan game is not something that either you get it or you don't, but rather how do you manage the swans and the number of swans on each building, and how does that change your valuation of them? It adds towers, which is a whole new shape. And once you play this game a few times, a new shape just throws a real wrench in your plans. Things can get really, really crazy. And royal decrees, which I think is the best idea of the bunch, which is you start off with a special power. Like this is asynchronous start.
Nice.
I start off with the ability to do this, or I start off with these resources at the beginning of the game, or I start off with the ability to do this during the game. And I just think that if you like this game, I think you're always ready to play this game as is. But, you know, adding longevity to the game by creating really good small modules to extend its gameplay, I think is a great thing.
Yeah. I have to say I've played a couple of the variants, and I feel like I didn't like them as much as the core game. Agreed. But that said, I'm still curious to see what the new kind of like big box version brings, and definitely it's such a great design. I'm definitely willing to try everything, and I, you know, from everything that's there, I'm definitely most curious about the asynchronous starts. I think that could be really cool in the game.
I agree. I didn't care for Swans too much. I thought Secret Passages made a lot of sense, and they were pretty cool. Yeah. And I like the idea of moats. I may have liked the idea of moats better than when I actually played with the moats, but
exactly.
But I do like the idea of, okay, guess what? Here's an extra. I see what you know. Everybody has figured out how to play Mad King Ludwig, where you just create these huge, sprawling castles that you would never design that way because they take up too much real estate. So guess what? Now you have to build within the constraints of a box. Or you don't have to, but if you do, you get mega points for it. So I like the idea of that anyway.
Yeah.
And that is Castles of Mad King Ludwig. I'll say it. I think this is one of the great gateway games that is out there. This is the kind of thing that I would buy friends. I would buy families. This would be my go-to Christmas present for a whole bunch of people, because you do not need to be a gaming family to get into this game. And if you get into this game, you might become a gaming family. So that's the way I think of it.
Yeah, I agree. 1,000%. That's great.
All right.
Hey, if you enjoyed that video, you very well might enjoy the other videos you now see being suggested to you on screen. Also, we'd greatly appreciate it if you could like, share, or subscribe to our Game Brain channel. Thanks so much.